What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. Today is the day we're taking the R100GS out for a test ride. Got this thing pulled outside. Let's go ahead and cold start this thing, see how it's running today. Let it idle for a few minutes with the choke on, just to start to get everything warmed up. What I'm trying to do today is kind of fine-tune the carbs and synchronize them. So the book says you need to ride the bike for like 15 minutes, get everything up to full operating temperature. Then we can work on that synchronization and our idle mixtures and all that kind of stuff. So I don't expect it to run perfect yet, but as long as we can get it to run enough for me to kind of scoot around and warm it up a little bit, and then we should be good to go when we get back. From the limited research I've done, I think I'm going to go in this order. I'm going to try and set the idle speed right around 1100 RPMs. It's definitely lower than that now. It was dropping down to like 800, and then the bike would want to die and I'd have to give it a little bit of throttle. So we'll try to bump up that idle speed evenly on both sides. Then I will work on mixture. So what I've seen on mixture is I can just start to screw the mixture screw in until it starts to stumble, and then just back out a little bit. That'll give us the leanest possible idle, that everything runs nice and smooth. We'll do that on both sides. And then I'm going to attempt to use my carburetor sync tool that I use on my 4-cylinder Hondas. See what kind of readings we get, see if we need to kind of play around with that. See if once we try and get them synced with that, the last step is I'm going to try to make sure that our actual cable is synchronized. I think I got them pretty darn close just by matching, you know, somewhere around a 2 to 3 millimeter kind of free play, but that's the name of the game. sounding really good. Now I have my vacuum gauge set up underneath the bike, just to the vacuum ports on each carb. My idea here is that I'm going to kind of open these little vacuum valves on each line, just so that we can start to kind of actually measure vacuum on each side, and then I will adjust the carburetors just to make sure they're pulling kind of equal vacuum. If you're not familiar with the carb sync, I've showed that a bunch of times on classic Hondas, but let's see how it works on this thing. Incredibly close already. Right there. Exactly the same reading on both. Wait, they weren't far off. Not too bad. So the final step is to try and synchronize the carb linkage to make sure that our cables are actually pulling at the same time. Most of the places and resources I found online said do it by ear, whatever that means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of set this left side of the bike. We have a little bit more free play than I want. It recommends somewhere between like 2 and 3 millimeters. So I'm going to try and set that. Once I think I have that set pretty well, I'm going to lock this side down. I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to start the bike up, and I'm just going to feel for if it seems like both cylinders are kind of taking off at the same time. We're going to see how that goes. So they also said that you could kind of hold it at like 1800-ish RPMs, and if one cylinder is open more than the other one, the bike will vibrate a lot. That kind of smoothed out and wasn't any excessive vibration as far as I'm concerned. I think we're good to go for another test ride. Gearing up for another test ride, but I have a legitimate but somewhat embarrassing question for you airhead owners. How do you guys get off of your bikes? Because the kickstand is spring loaded and goes way up here under the head. So unless you're 7.5 feet tall, you can't kick the kickstand and get it all the way out under the head, at least not very easily while you're sitting on the bike. So do you guys just like get off with no stand down, balancing the bike, and then put the kickstand down? Or I don't know. It's one of those things that I haven't quite figured out on this bike yet. Every other bike, you just kick out the kickstand and it just goes floop, and it just stays there. And then I don't know why they did it this way, but please let me know. Well, it's my first official time riding an airhead out on the road, and this thing's a little dreamboat. Super smooth. I mean, you could ride this thing all day. I'm pretty stoked on it. Suspension's nice and smooth, it handles well, it carries its weight very well, which a lot of people say that about these bigger GS bikes, is, you know, the airhead and everything having the center of gravity really low, I guess helps with that. So it doesn't feel like a, you know, 500, 600 pound bike. It's pretty maneuverable. That weight also gives you a lot of stability, it feels like. I'm pretty stoked on it. I mean, it'll tear up some back roads without thinking twice. Only issues I've found so far, my tripometer doesn't work, so I got to figure that out. The speedometer works, but it jumps around a lot. I don't know if that is a quirk with these bikes or if that's a particular problem with this bike. Basically, it feels like it's really sticky down around the 30-40 mile an hour range, and then kind of bounces. It'll bounce like a full 10 miles an hour occasionally. So I want to make sure to kind of check that out, make sure it's not like a really dirty cable or something. Since our tachometer is not working as well, I don't know if maybe just inside that whole left gauge might be kind of in need of some cleaning and oiling. I'll have to look up if that's something that I can do, or if that's something we'll have to kind of send out to have done. But other than that, it's stopping really well. It seems to be running well. I don't have any complaints. I'm falling in love with BMWs a little bit. I'm not gonna lie to you. Honda might have something to worry about. One thing I've noticed is there seems to be just a little bit more valve train noise on the right side of the bike than on the left side. I might need to just double check. I did those clearances and everything exactly the same. I didn't feel any, you know, play in the rocker arms or anything like that, but it is a little bit louder on that side. I don't know if that's just a quirk of these bikes, or I don't know. We'll double check that. One thing I also noticed is you have to kind of take off in this thing a little bit more like a car. So you have to like give it a good amount of gas and then somewhat quickly release the clutch to get a smooth takeoff. I guess it's just because it's a dry clutch, it's like a, you know, like more automotive style clutch. It doesn't slip quite as much as a traditional motorcycle wet clutch would. So it seems like you just kind of have to drive it a little bit differently, but so far I'm digging it. Well, the test ride went exceptional. A couple of things. So I mentioned speedometer is very kind of sticky and bounces and doesn't seem to operate super smooth, and tachometer not working. So those are both issues in this gauge that we'll have to do a little bit of research on, see if that's something that's common, see if there's an easy fix, if it's something we have to like ship the speedometer out to get rebuilt. I don't know yet. I haven't looked into it. So there's that. There's the slightly louder kind of tick valve train style noise coming from the right side of the bike. You airhead guys, if you could let me know if that's something that's pretty common. I am at some point in the next couple of days or whatever going to just recheck our head torque, recheck our valve clearance, recheck any play in those rocker shafts, anything like that, just to make sure that it's nothing, you know, nice and easy. The bigger issue that I found since I've gotten back from my test ride is we have quite a bit of moisture around this right fork, and it seems to be coming from our fork tube seals. It looks like it's kind of pressing fluid out. It's starting to drip all over the boot, all over this little bracket. It's actually starting to kind of splash back a little bit onto the engine itself. So we get to order up and learn how to do some BMW fork tube seals. I've done about 1 million on a Honda, so I imagine we can figure it out. I'm gonna take you guys along the way. That is gonna do it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed the first test ride of the R100GS. A couple of projects left to do on it, but overall, it's a really, really solid bike. I'm really falling in love with airheads. I mean, it doesn't matter what's back there. We'll figure that out later. So the next couple of videos are probably going to be a little bit random because I got to order those parts, and then I'm also going to start to tear apart the garage. I don't know. I don't know what you guys are going to see next, so stay tuned to find out. I appreciate you watching as always. I'll catch you guys in the next one.